Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 538 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forces of the Russian invasion. Stian Jensen, the head of the NATO Secretary General's office, has suggested that Ukraine could potentially join the alliance in exchange for its territory. However, he emphasized that such a decision should be made by Kyiv alone, reports European Pravda. During a public discussion, Jensen underscored that Ukraine should decide when and under what conditions it wants to negotiate. He noted that discussions about Ukraine's future NATO status following the war are currently ongoing and options, including Kyiv giving up parts of its territory, are being considered. I'm not saying it has to be exactly like that, but it can be a probable solution, explained the head of the NATO Secretary General's office. His suggestion was critically received by Ukrainian officials. The Foreign Ministry spokesman Oleg Nikolenko said that any talks of Ukraine joining NATO in exchange for giving up part of Ukrainian territories was absolutely unacceptable. We have always assumed that the alliance, like Ukraine, does not trade territories. The conscious or unconscious participation of NATO officials in shaping the narrative regarding the possibility of Ukraine giving up its territories plays into the hands of Russia, he said. Oleksiy Danilov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, called the statement a strange one and said that he does not understand why this was said, reports Radio Liberty. European Pravda source among the NATO officials said that there has been no change in the NATO's policy on supporting Ukraine despite the recent statement. President Volodymyr Zelensky visited positions of the Ukrainian forces in the Zaporizhia Oblast in the south of Ukraine yesterday. The president said in his evening video address that he spoke with the brigade and battalion commanders about the needs of the warriors. Specific needs have been identified: electronic warfare equipment, drones, and medevac armored evacuation vehicles. Training of soldiers is one of the key tasks, believes Zelensky. He stressed that real combat experience, current challenges and trends on the battlefield, fire and maneuver, the skills that Ukrainian warriors have, need to be shared with all brigades and made a priority in training centers, especially during training of mobilized soldiers. Soldiers' training is also the responsibility of every commander at all levels. Motivation of people is important, and it is a direct consequence of how they learn to fight. The president heard from the battalion commanders about combat use of equipment and weapons provided by Ukraine's partners. Each such feedback is something we will discuss with the leaders of our partner states, said Zelensky. He thanked all the warriors who take trophies and put Russian equipment to work for Ukraine. This is not just the rationality of our guys, this is also an important proof of the ability of our heroes to take weapons from the enemy and use them to protect the life of Ukrainians, said the head of state. We would really appreciate if you could recommend us to your friends and family, as well as share information on social media. This way more people would learn about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. Sweden announced a new package of military aid for Ukraine worth $314 million, reports Radio Liberty. According to the country's defense minister Paul Jonsson, the package consists of ammunition and spare parts for the CV-90 combat vehicle and Archer artillery systems, as well as trucks and demining equipment. The minister emphasized that it is important to support Ukrainian air defense. In this regard, it is proposed to sell air-to-air AMRAAM missiles to the US so that they can be transferred to Ukraine. Paul Jonsson noted that the readiness of the Swedish army will be lowered in the short term after this assistance, but this should be corrected as soon as possible. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We are a commercial initiative of just two people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.